watching lately. They're husky, hairy, huggable homos. Movie Bears Podcast.
Hello all and welcome to the Movie Bears Podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week, along with my fellow husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends, we review movies either current or classic on this show. And this week, we've definitely got one from the current column. We are reviewing Matthew Vaughn's newest film, Argylle. If you're watching live on YouTube, on video, you'll notice the Argylle pattern behind our faces. How thematic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ding. Yes. Should be an interesting discussion. This movie has been getting, just all over the place feedback. And I know a little bit what one of my co-hosts thinks and nothing about what my other co-host thinks. So I'm dying to end the suspense. So let me introduce them both to you, and then we'll get into our movie discussion, uncover all the secrets of our thoughts, and maybe hear some of yours if we have anyone that's listening live that saw the film and wants to contribute to the discussion. Please feel free to hop into the live chat and do so. If you haven't seen it yet, don't fret. We got you. We're going to talk about the movie spoiler-free for a little while, so that, if you're interested in hearing our opinions, you can soak those up, and then we'll save you from spoilers with a great big old fat spoiler warning to give you time to step away. So all of that said, Jim Pugliafico. Oh my gosh, I just saw you like 5 seconds ago, but it's so good to see you here too. How are you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy week. And, it's going to stay busy until Friday as usual. And then, so I'm looking forward to kind of breaking up this week. I know we moved the show a day, but I'm looking forward to breaking up this week with the show. It's going to be fun to review another new movie, regardless of, how it turns out. It's going to be fun with you gentlemen.
I agree. And I know we typically record this on Tuesday. It's a Wednesday this week. So listeners, thanks for your flexibility with us adjusting our schedule. There's been some crazy stuff happening in the background with work and travel and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes we flex where we need to. But thanks for hanging in with us, everybody. And Jim, this is always such a highlight of my week too. It's nice that it's kind of bisecting the week this time. So I like that as well. William Lindis is also here with us as well. Will, I know you as Will and William. I'm never sure which to actually say, even, 12 years after doing the show. Maybe, we just keep bouncing back and forth. I don't know what's appropriate for you. You can let us know if we've gotten it wrong for 12 years. But welcome to the show. How the heck are you?
Great. And also, I think because of that specific intro, I think I'll never tell. So, so I will leave Will and William both on the table, and each week it can be sort of like, a little game of like guessing game. Like, is this the right one? Is this the wrong one? Maybe they're both the right one. Maybe I go by both and it's interchangeable. But I'm excited about this week too. You mentioned that we have sort of two things that are exciting about this week. One, we're reviewing a new movie that's out in theaters right now that I wouldn't say a lot of people, but a number of people are talking about, good, bad, whatever. And then also, as much as I enjoy our normal night recording on Tuesday, it's sometimes fun to mix things up a little bit. So here we are on a Wednesday, and my week sort of like, I don't know, it feels a little like it's fresh. We should mix these up every so often. I guess life and real life appointments are going to make that happen anyway, huh?
Yes, they are.
Indeed. Very, very true. Well, speaking of real life appointments, we all had a real life appointment over the weekend to see Argylle, and we are now very much ready to talk this movie through, kind of come up and just talk through our initial impressions. And again, we'll give you a big old spoiler warning before we rip that particular Band-Aid off. Jim, Will, I know y'all are super jonesing for this conversation, but before we jump into that, there's just one more thing we got to talk about. We got to celebrate. this is something super important. Some additional news we got over the weekend. We're going to South by Southwest, y'all. What?
Yay!
Yeah, baby,
Yeah.
be there.
We got the approval emails from South by Southwest Film that we are going as accredited press. This is our 10th year. I went back and did the math. Been trading emails back and forth with their incredible press office for the last 10 years. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of amazing that this will be our 10th year going as press. We, of course, went the couple years before that as well. We just weren't press at that point. I don't even remember if you went to South by before that very first time, but for us, Jim, this is going to be our 12th year. Can you believe that?
It's crazy. I'm trying to remember the first time we went. Was that when we met you, Will? Was that during South by?
No, so we
Well,
met
not the
Will
first time.
at Fest with
Bat
McKee.
Fest.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe Bat Fest. Right. That's probably in the.
That's 2011.
Yeah. Okay.
That would have been like August of 2011.
But it's around the same. It's in the same year, probably.
No, the next South by Southwest, we started this. I think it was 2012 or 13 when we started doing South by Southwest. So I'd already known y'all for a little bit, but only having met online the one time, or met in person on the one time, and then just sort of online friends for a bit from there.
Indeed.
So yeah, I mean, this is 12 years attending, 10 years covering. 10 years is kind of made. Is this the year that we get our like custom South by Southwest press leather jackets? Is that?
I think
we
either get jackets or pins. I forget.
Or pins. It's the pin year anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can we like get new business cards and like pins made before we go this year? We have a little over a month. Maybe we could make it happen.
Maybe.
I don't know. Could be fun. We'll think about it. Anyway, looking forward to a week of movies with y'all. And Will, thanks so much for offering your home up to us. Can't wait to see you, Wiggles, and the pups, and have an amazing time. But before we get to that amazing time, we still got a few weeks of movie reviews to get through, starting with this one. Jim, Will, are y'all ready to talk about Argylle?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Come on.
All right. Here we go then. Our spoiler-free at first and then spoiler-laden later review of Argylle. Try saying spoiler-laden later 5 times fast.
No.
No? You're not,
No.
not even
Spoiler-laden. Yes.
You're trying to make me yodel?
It does kind of sound that way.
Spoiler laden later in the review.
Oh, goodness. All right. This is going to be a fun conversation, I think. And Will, if you don't mind kicking this mother off, give us a brief setup. What the heck is Argylle? And what were your initial thoughts on the film? Was it worth seeing in theaters, watching on streaming, or maybe even skipping entirely? Where'd you come down?
All right, so Argylle is the latest movie from the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn. That's not coming from me. That's coming from the marketing. I have strong thoughts about that, which we'll talk about later. The premise of this one is a reclusive author who writes espionage novels about a secret agent and a global spy syndicate realizes the plot of the new book she's writing starts to mirror real-world events in real time. So this movie stars Bryce Dallas Howard as the writer of the spy series Argylle inside of this world of Argylle. Argylle himself, in the kind of flashes over to like what's happening in the books, is played by Henry Cavill. She's well known, super popular. People kind of recognize her by face and by name as a pretty notable author. Until one day the spy world intersects with her on a train, and she and spy Sam Rockwell are swept across countries and locales doing spy stuff to try to figure out why her stories seem to be of such importance to so many bad people. And this is a movie, is where it lands. It is a movie. Look, so like Matthew Vaughn makes these like movies that are very, very like broadly accessible, but do have some pretty gonzo sequences. I think about the church sequence from the first Kingsman movie. I think about like the let's just say colorful explosions from the first Kingsman movie, the Elton John fight from part 2. Like there's a lot of gonzo things, and there are gonzo things that happen in this movie. Like there are some fun sequences. The problem with those fun sequences is that they are so broadly, like wildly over the top, and they feel like they don't even exist in the same movie that that we're watching. The performances are not stellar. There are a couple people I liked seeing in here. There's a couple who, you know, I didn't do it as much for me. No one's actively bad here, but this isn't one of those movies carried by the performances. Nor is it a movie that's really carried by the plot. There's these things that are in the trailer that are like, can you guess who Argylle is? Who is Argylle? Once you know the secret of Argylle, keep it secret. And honestly, the marketing for this movie is bananas because it's so fucking bad that if I watched the movie and I went into it thinking like, who is Argylle? And I sat down thinking like, all right, I need to figure out who is Argylle. And I kind of had it in the first like 3 minutes of the movie, which isn't a problem, right? It's not a problem with the movie if you outguess it. But at the same time, the marketing made me start going down a trail that I wouldn't have started thinking about if I had just watched the movie as it was. So sort of a marketing fail. Matthew Vaughn is not a twisted mind. He's a kind of an over the top action director. I don't know. This is kind of like right in that like 2.5 out of 5-star style movies. You know, it's like right down the middle. I still had fun with portions of this movie, despite the movie doing everything it could to try to stop me from having fun with it. There's a sequence at the end with smoke that's super fun. There are a couple. Yeah, there are a couple of other small there are a couple of other small sequences throughout that are good, but it's just this. If you're going to this thinking like this is the next Kingsman movie, it's like Kingsman light. Like it doesn't have any of the charm or kind of the world building of that world. So watch at your own risk. Watch at your own discretion. It's perfectly adequate, but that's as far as I can give. Neither liquid nor solid. This movie exists, so. I don't know if it's up your alley. Go see it. If it's not, skip it. You're fine either way. I'm not gonna. I don't feel strongly enough to push you either direction.
So, Will, just to clarify, you're basically saying this movie is Crystal Pepsi. Is that right?
Here's the difference. Here's the big difference.
Like you'll barely remember it the next
No.
year.
Here's the thing. I had Crystal Pepsi like when I was a kid, and then they got rid of it. And I thought about it for fucking decades afterwards. I won't think about this movie at all by the end of this year. We're going to be doing our end of year lists. And
be like, oh, that was a movie.
Yeah, I'm going to be like looking in Letterboxd because we're doing our Letterboxd thing. And I'm going to be like, Argylle? Oh, yeah, that's the one with the bad CGI. Okay.
All right. That's fair. All right. Thanks so much, Will. Appreciate you. Jim, how about for you? Did this movie hit a little differently with you, or do you feel kind of in line with Will? Where do you come down?
I think it did hit a little bit different with me, unfortunately, in that it really didn't hit that much at all. I felt like this movie really didn't hang together very well for me. Will, you said there were some semi-fun sequences. And I even have some issues with some of those sequences because I felt that tonally the film was kind of all over the place. I don't think tonally the movie knew what it wanted to be. I think this could have been a really cool comedy film, right? I think it could have been really good, like action comedy film. As it is, I think it tried to be this espionage thriller with maybe little bits of like quippiness and comedy thrown in, and I just don't think the the switch between tension and comedy really worked, at least for me. But I know that there's a lot of people who are gonna love this film, right? There's tons of action in this film, action-packed sequences, um, and I don't want to spoil anything, but um, some of those sequences are kind of like you said, Will, really over the top. Um, as far as Matthew Vaughn goes, I mean, I think back to a movie like Kick-Ass, which I really, really loved. I liked the character work that they did in that movie. And unfortunately, in this movie, I think characters really come secondary to the plot. I think that the plot here drives everything, and if we can make a convoluted plot and try to keep a step ahead of the audience, we'll be better off. But it didn't do that for me. It didn't work much at all. So I'm not going to tell people not to go see this, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that do vibe with this film very much. It just didn't work for me.
Very fair. Not every movie is for every person, but even beyond that, like, we all just have our personal lenses in terms of how we look at things, and maybe this one, Jim, just didn't match your sensibilities. I don't know. When we get into spoilers, maybe we can dig in a little deeper and see what worked for you or didn't.
Okay,
So
sure.
would love to hear more about that. For myself, Will, I think I am similar to you in the sense that this movie was fairly middle of the road for me. There were certain sequences that I really enjoyed. Jim, I think the sequence that Will was mentioning was when you went to the bathroom. So I don't think you got to see that sequence.
The best part of the movie, according to you and other people I've heard from, I missed it because I went to the bathroom. But I think here's what it was. I saw them doing something in the movie that telegraphed for me that a certain scene was coming up that I saw in the trailer. Right, that scene is, at least part of that scene might be in the trailer. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave now because I think I know what's coming. And then I got back, and Brett's like, "Oh my God, you missed probably the best scene in the movie. They did this and this and this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." Not sure I'll ever get to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Who knows? Maybe you can watch it on YouTube in a few years if you're super curious. But for me, yeah, this one, I enjoyed a few of the different sequences, including the smoke sequence, Will, that you were mentioning. Yes, guys, I know I have video lag. I see the chat. I'll work on that. But there was a lot here that just didn't work for me as well, unfortunately. And so, it all kind of balances out. The thing I thought that I'd roll my eyes over a lot, the whole like Dua Lipa dance sequence at the beginning that's in the trailer, was like, oh my God, that looks stupid. I ended up really loving that. And then something that I thought I would really love, that being the cat in the movie, I kind of ended up not really liking that much. So it's kind of like a weird, like, bender twist, with the trailer and my expectations going in. But yeah, this was a movie that we saw. Wasn't the super greatest movie ever, wasn't the super worst movie ever. But listen, we're kind of in this no man's land right now where there's not a lot to go see. That is kind of like mass audience appeal. And I know at least several friends who went to see it over the weekend who were like, I heard this movie was total horseshit, but I had a ton of fun with it. So, take our feedback for what you will. As always, go see it, form your own opinions, see what you think. You might end up really loving it, even though, we didn't. There is some stuff there, I think, to enjoy and appreciate. So check it out if you want, but it's probably a soft pass for me.
Yeah, I mean, there are, like I said, I think there are people out there that will, vibe with a lot of this movie. It's just that there was just too much here that kept me from engaging, between the, lack of any kind of real stakes. There's, this is one of those bloodless violence movies that kind of drive me fucking crazy. There's, the CGI cat thing, which we'll talk about more in spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything. Because we did talk about who Argylle is, and the movie might want us to think that the cat is Argylle. I don't know. And no, the cat's name in the movie is not Argylle, by the way. So yeah, like I said, I think there are people who are really going to love this movie. This is maybe a good popcorn eating, something in front of your eyeballs while you eat popcorn. I think that's kind of where I see this movie.
All right.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think it's a fair thing to say. I'm going to come down a little harder on it than I think. I think we've been a little nice in the I think this movie's going to find its audience, and there's going to be some people. That's probably true of most things, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of movies that have their audiences, and that's super fair. I've been looking at some of the initial audience kind of reviews because I've been wondering about that too, and it's. I mean, there are obviously a few exceptions, but most people are kind of skewing a little closer to us, and it makes sense why this was essentially a January release, because this really feels like they hyped it up, they pumped it up, they got it ready to go, and they realized I don't think this one's going to set the world on fire the way they were expecting it to, and that's okay. Sometimes movies take swings and they miss, and that's unfortunately what happens here.
And I mean, this might be a Matthew Vaughn might be building kind of a universe here with these movies, with Argylle being the first and Scottish Plaid coming next, and then Gingham after that, and it should be, and Paisley's going to be the capper.
Goodness. All right, well, fellas, how do you feel about making that jump to Spoiler Town?
Yeah, let's get this moving.
All right, so listen up. We are going to go ahead and move things along into spoilery territory. So if you haven't seen Argylle yet and you really want to go see it and you don't want to have your experience be impacted by our thoughts, now is the time to step away and come on back in 15 minutes and 3 seconds for some plugs. You're not going to want to miss those. We'll likely talk about things that we really, really loved, maybe compared to this movie. But spoilers, they're a thing. They're happening right now. I am done awkwardly rambling. By the way, we have a very hot gentleman in chat right now who is commenting at us. He's not seen the movie yet, but Will Durr, D Geek Will on YouTube. Amazing show, by the way. Be sure to check that out. Will says, haven't seen it yet, but wanted to pop in and say hi. By the way, love the title card. Thanks so much, Will. Yeah, we figured an Argylle pattern was probably fitting, given that we were reviewing a movie called Argylle. Glad it jives for you.
Yeah,
good to see you.
And it was fun setting that title card up too, because we got to really play with the little backpack patterns and the Argylle setup and just all of that. It's just fun. It's just fun. This sometimes they're easy because the designs jump off the page, and this is one of them.
I mean, being a face in the cat backpack really made my week, Will. So I have to give you, I'm not wearing a hat, but if I were, I would tip it to you because between the Argylle pattern and the backpacks, and it was a really fun one this week. So good job.
And I will say that is the thing, that one of the things that it works best about this movie is that there is that Argylle pattern to the aesthetic on the marketing itself, but also we get to see that in the backpack that she's wearing through the movie, and there's a couple of shots where you see some things that are sort of done in that pattern. The books have a if I believed any one thing out of this movie, I believe that this was a popular book series that had a recognizable design within the movie. I thought that whoever did that within the film, I think absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Did you know that there is a book out?
Oh, is there?
By an L.A. Conway?
Is there?
Who is an author that has never appeared in public?
What? Yeah. Really?
It came out right before the movie did.
Wait, is this the whole Taylor Swift thing that's going on about this movie?
Oh, that was part of it.
Okay.
Somebody thought it was connected to the Taylor Swift thing. Of course, everything right now is connected to Taylor Swift from Yeah, but yeah, there's a book I think you can buy um,
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
Argyle. That yeah, I probably won't be buying it, but I'd be curious to hear if somebody buys it and reads it and lets me know if it's any good as kind of a spy novel.
Yeah.
Interesting. First
Yeah.
published. I do love this. I'm looking at it on Goodreads right now. The book that inspired
Yeah.
the noir motion picture, something like that. But
Hmm.
the first published January 4th, 2024. Okay, so this is a
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah,
marketing
it's a
material.
tie-in. It's a tie-in.
And
But it's real. But it is real.
and it's a smart tie-in. Like
No, yeah.
that part of this is really cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what I didn't enjoy as much.
We are in spoilers officially.
We are
right?
in spoilers. And by the way, I do think it's telling that we just spent 5 minutes talking about everything but the actual movie.
Oh.
Maybe that, points in a direction. I don't know, but let's hear it.
100%. Yeah. So the part of the marking I mentioned I didn't like was that whole "who is Argyle," and so right at the beginning of the movie, there's like a couple of scenes that happen that really tie to like the main character having like some sort of like people are acting suspicious around her, and and my first thought was, oh, okay, she has amnesia and she's secretly Argyle. Let's just get to that part, and again, I've said this before on the show. It doesn't make a movie good or bad if you figure it out, right? But in this case, the thing that bothered me is I wouldn't have started thinking about that if the movie hadn't asked if the marketing hadn't asked the question. I would have just been along
Right.
for the ride to see what this novelist was
Yeah.
doing, and then whoa, cool. So bad. That's a bad part of the marketing. It detracted
Yeah.
from the experience. And the other part that's kind of bad about that is it's like, how can I be excited about that when like the Long Kiss Goodnight like exists and I can just watch that, like a much better version of the same simple concept.
Right.
So that was the first thing that really bugged me. The second thing that bugged me, I'm sorry, but I struggle with Bryce Dallas Howard a little bit. I think that she is incredibly capable as an actress, but everyone around her was just so much more charming. And I think that's just, I think for her, it's harder for me to buy her as the lead of a film like this when you've got, Moira Rose back there just absolutely chewing up the scenery as the mother. I think Sam Rockwell, well, I loved seeing him in this. He was so much fun, and he seemed like he was having a blast all the way through it. Even Henry Cavill and his stupid haircut, like whenever he was on screen, like I was drawn to it. But this central point that this movie is based around, this Bryce Dallas Howard character of Ellie Conway, I just wasn't buying it. I wasn't invested, and that hurt a lot. I don't know if y'all had a better experience, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bryce Dallas Howard. I think I did buy her very much as Ellie Conway. But when the movie switched where she's supposed to be what was the
Kyle.
Kyle, which is goofy as fuck. Like I never bought that she was like a a high tech spy, you know, capable of that. I just never bought that she was ever there. And I think the movie kind of hinges on that a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that's a casting issue or an acting issue. But I mean, yeah, I mean, towards the end of the movie, she's fight scenes in the gold lame, dress that's down to her ankles and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's supposed to be impressive or just goofy or what, but yeah, I didn't buy it. And Sam Rockwell's fine. I think for me, Bryan Cranston was the most fun to watch in this movie. Kind of as the head of what was the name of the agency? I forget what it was, but
Yeah, it was like
the syndicate or something
it
like
started
that.
with the D. I don't know. It's the
the directorate or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, um, as director Ritter of that, and supposedly Ellie's fake dad, um, in those scenes. But yeah, I would say Bryan Cranston, as far as the cast here, was kind of the best for me. And the most interesting character was the one that gets killed at the beginning of the movie and then shows up in the last. Like, she gets killed in the first 2 minutes of the movie, shows up in the last 2 minutes of the film to save the day. And I'm like, I would have liked to seen like a movie about that character. Maybe, I don't know. It's just kind of weird, but
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how like this movie blends like real life with the book plot with Ellie's actual life as Rachel Kyle, right? Like things are it's almost confusing in a way as to
It
like
is
what's really
very
real
confusing. Yeah.
and what's not. And I respect the movie for trying to take us on a bit of a mind fuck to get there. But yeah, it was totally obvious that the Kira character was going to show up again at the end. In fact, one of the people in our screening in the row behind us, like halfway through the movie was like, when's Kira coming back? Because she's coming back. And sure enough, 35 minutes later.
That might have been me.
Real quick, Brad. You have a voice that you use whenever you do Optimus Prime, and it was almost that voice. So I like to think that Optimus Prime was like sitting behind you going like, Autobots, what the fuck is this movie?
Kira, come back to life and roll out. But yeah, so I was glad to see that character come back, but like I wanted to know more about that character. I wish she would have played a more pivotal role, earlier. Maybe it could have subverted our expectations a little by not having her show up with like a last second save, but like she's chilling out with Samuel L. Jackson or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that smoke sequence, and babe, I promise I'm not trying to.
Oh, please go
you.
ahead.
Just
no, go.
I know you had to use the restroom, and sometimes you gotta go. You just
Let me guess. They did the
go.
smoke in like a heart thing, and they danced their way through it amongst all these guys that are like shooting at nothing at all while they get killed.
Is it really guessing if I told you what happened in that sequence? When you
No, that was me. No, go ahead.
I'm just razzing you a little bit, babe. I actually really enjoyed that sequence. I saw it in the trailer and I was like, oh, this is the head popping sequence of this movie. Right. From, I guess, spoilers for whatever Kingsman movie that was in. I forget now. They all run together. But it's interesting to me. I did not realize this was like a Kingsman adjacent movie at first. It wasn't until we got the scene where they're like at the park with the statue that I saw her drinking a Statesman beer. And I was like, Statesman? And it's even got like the same like logo and stuff. Like, oh, it's a Kingsman nod. But sure enough, when we got to that scene with the smoke and them like embracing and looking lovingly into each other's eyes through their, IR masks and everything, gas masks, that's when it like went full blown Kingsman for me. And at first I was just like, this is gonna be dumb. But like as it went on, as opposed to like the oil ice skating, which don't get me started, this scene was actually like really pretty, was almost poetic in a way. The cheese factor of them like starstruck looking at each other was really high, but like it worked for me. Like it was just this insane off the rails sequence I really appreciated. And now I want like different colored smoke bombs to dance around in because I think that would be fun and cool. So kudos to this film for at least giving me that sequence. Jim, I'm sorry you missed it, but it was definitely the highlight for me.
Yeah, it was for me too, and for exactly that reason. I think that it's there are a couple of moments in this movie, a lot of moments in this movie where the action that's being displayed on screen doesn't fully match the tone of what they're going for, and not in like a cool subversive way, but more in like a muddled way. A lot of the stuff with the cat is along that lines, but here this is the part where the two characters who love one another and who had this romance before, but they've just refound each other, are reconnecting through this like beautiful pirouette of like mowing people down, which fills in some backstory. It makes you go like, this is probably how they were when they were at their peak, just like an unstoppable pair, and they're kind of reconnecting to that. The visuals look cool. It matched what was going on. You're right, though, Brad. There's an ice skating sequence in the oil later that is so bad. It's so bad. I dislike that sequence so much. Also, because not just because of how, I don't know, just how silly it was and just how much it didn't work, but also how much they telegraphed it to the point where I was like, oh God, are they about to? Yeah, they're gonna. With some of the, I used to be an ice skater references that they dropped throughout the
And
movie.
I'm like, of course you were.
Yeah, just to sort of set that up. They said it a couple of times before that scene, just so that they could like do that payoff. It's like, all right. But no, the smoke scene was really cool. The opening scene was also really cool with Dua Lipa doing the dance, and it felt like a silly, over-the-top spy movie. And I'll be honest, I kind of want to watch that Argylle, like the world that exists, the Argylle world that exists within this movie with John Cena and Henry Cavill and Dua Lipa, Bill Nye. That looks, I'm sorry, not Bill Nye, Richard E. Grant. That's the world I want to spend more time in.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, I am forever an advocate of cats in movies, but why was the fucking cat in this movie in the end? Like, do we even know what the purpose of that cat being in this movie was at all? I can't figure it out.
I have two theories. One, it's to show how pervasive Rachel's programming was, that they turned her from an uber dog person to an uber cat person. Like that for me is like indicative of like total personality switch.
Yeah.
So that's one theory. And then the second thing is, I think it's a setup for that moment where the cat like jumps onto Bryan Cranston and like scratches his eyes out, and it's so funny. To be fair, a lot of people in our theater were really laughing at that scene,
absolutely,
like uproariously. Even though it didn't really land for me, and the CGI on it was god awful. That's my theory anyway, as to where that was coming from. Will, maybe you have different thoughts. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where it's coming from. And also just the idea of, I think I would imagine fairly early on, they got kind of hooked on the idea in the script of Alfie the cat. He remembers Alfie, the director. Okay, that makes sense. And also, let's put the cat on the posters because that would be cool. It would let us carry around that Argylle pattern with us. She's a lonely cat lady. I think there's a lot of things that probably were part of the early script, and just at that point they were so woven into the DNA of what the what writer Jason Fuchs was doing through the process, that it just didn't come out. The problem I had was that it was silly and didn't work, and not silly in a fun way, silly in a I think you could have done this. You could have done the same thing with the cat and then just like left it at a certain point. Like if I were writing this film, and again, I'm not, I watched it. I'm not writing this film, but I would have left Alfie with Alfie and not had the cat come along or be a part of the final sequences, like sort of leave the cat at the time, when we're getting ready to transition over to Rachel. And still come back and love on the cat, etc., what have you, but just we don't need the cat like, doing stuff in the final sequences.
Yeah,
I get it. Plus a lot of people who like cats go to movies, and they'll go to see a movie with a cute cat in it. So that's possible too.
I'll be honest, as a cat person, that spoke to me in the trailer, and I was like, well, the cat being carried around in a backpack all movie, like that could be cool. We'll see what happens. But we didn't see a lot of the really terrible cat CGI in that trailer beyond the like bounce up thing sequence.
If anything, I felt like it was a little hard because there were a couple of times where the CGI cat got abused, and I was like, we're gonna throw it off this roof.
Really turned me off.
I'm gonna knock this off. You know,
Bryan
it's like-
Cranston
right.
threw it on the ground at one point, I think.
yeah, which
And
again
that
was sort
a
of
real
a
bummer.
which was a setup for again the ice
Mhm.
scraping thing, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This movie was really much like this movie is Chekhov's arsenal. It's like it's like at the beginning of this movie, someone just took like 100 Chekhov's guns and just tossed them into the air, and every single one of them, they just had to pick up this breadcrumb to play off this. And again, like cause and effect is an important part of a movie, but all the cause and effect was so blatant that
Mhm.
you kind of you're taken out of the magic of the movie, and you're instead sort of like peeking behind the script writing process the whole way through.
Right.
Like, they're
Yeah.
putting this in place because this is going to happen. You have to use those things judiciously
Mhm.
and smartly. Like
Yeah.
a good Chekhov's gun moment is one where you go, "Oh shit, that's that thing that they mentioned earlier in the movie. Oh god, I wasn't even thinking about that." Where it makes you excited about the revelation, not waiting for, "Come on, bring Kira back. You know she's gonna." You know,
Right.
Yeah.
It's the difference between like Chekhov from Star Trek popping out with his phaser at an opportune moment and you forgot that he was hanging around, and Chekhov walking around the whole movie holding his phaser threateningly, right? Like one's a surprise, one isn't. And yeah, it didn't work super well here. I think a lot of things didn't
Yeah.
work super well.
Yeah, the needle drop at the end with the new Beatles song.
Mm,
I don't know if you recognize that, Will. That was that new Beatles song that they just did like end of last year through technology. Like they recovered some John Lennon tapes and they made a song out of it. Now and later or something like that. They used that. That was the song they used through the end fight sequence. And I think they even referenced it in the movie. They're like, "Oh, this was our song. Don't you remember?" And I'm like, "No, you don't remember because this song just got released like 3 months ago." Anyway, so it was like, it's not. First of all, it's just a bad needle drop in that moment. It just didn't fit like the whole. It didn't fit the whole feel of the scene, and it just felt really weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it had anything to do with corporate involvement, including that song, because I won't say anymore because I might get in trouble.
Yeah, I will say I did not buy the soundtrack to this movie, but there was
go.
one song that was used that I did go and get on Apple Music. I did not buy the song, but I downloaded it as part of my Apple Music subscription. Leona Lewis does a version of Snow Patrol's Run that is used in this movie that I fell in love with, and I've listened to about 30 times now since we've seen the movie. So, takeaways for me are the smoke sequence and the Leona Lewis version of Run. So thanks for that, movie studio. Appreciate you.
I'm very happy that you got something out of this movie, babe.
I know. All right. Well, I think that we've kicked this one enough, probably. But let me confirm that with you fellas. Are you feeling pretty done talking about this one, or did you have any other burning things you needed to get out before we move on?
My kicker is tired.
Look, like this is so I don't know, I'm so kind of disinterested in kind of continuing talk about this movie, which again is a 2.5-star movie. Not like this is not an actively atrocious movie. It's just one that fails to spark much in me. It so much does so that we have not talked about the teaser at the end that sort of like connects it to the Kingsman.
That's real,
And-
real connection. Yeah.
And I don't really care to.
Yeah.
If y'all do, fine. But like for me, it was just sort of like okay, that was a thing. Moving on.
Well, too bad because Matthew Vaughn has 2 more Kingsman movies in production. So
Yeah.
So here we go.
Boy. Oh boy. All right. Well, we're gonna switch gears and go ahead and end the show at this point. Wait. I hear you, but plugs is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Right. But plugs have to happen, and
Plugs.
so Let's focus on our butt plugs segment for this week's show before we wrap. We just want a chance to say butt plugs as many times as possible on the show, folks. If you're like, wow, this is really terrible, we're sorry, but we've been doing this for 12 years and we want to say butt plugs. So there you go.
Yep.
So let's do some butt plug show and tell before we wrap up this show. Please make sure they're clean. Jim, what is your butt plug for this week?
My butt plug is something that I saw on Netflix, and so if me talking about it spurs you on, you can go and pull it up on Netflix right now. It's called The Greatest Night in Pop. This is a documentary film that was put together from video footage and recordings that were made during the night in January 25th, 1985, when USA for Africa organization organized the recording of a song called We Are the World. Everybody, a lot of people know this song, right? Or I assume that a lot of people know this song. I don't know how you could be alive as an adult right now and not have heard this song. Maybe too much. Who knows? But it was a song that, like, yeah, heard it a ton back in the 80s when it was really popular because they were raising money to fight famine, I think in Ethiopia at the time. And a bunch of stars came together on the night of the, I think it was the Grammys or one of the music award shows. They all came together and spent the whole night making this song. And it's a fantastic documentary behind the scenes. This is like a behind the scenes making of. So you know, we've all seen the video of the actual song, but now you get to see like tons of extra footage of these stars coming together, trying to figure out how to make this song with so many personalities and so much star power in that room, from, you know, Michael Jackson, Ray Charles, you know, Lionel Richie, Lindsey Buckingham, Phil Collins, tons of people, Harry Belafonte, Bruce Springsteen. Like, it was like the who's who of music back in 1985. And this was a really fun watch. Like, I can't say that I was ever super in love with that song, especially recently, but like this documentary made me like re-fall in love with that song so much that it's been in my freaking head, and Brad could tell you because I've been going around humming it like there comes a time, you know. And so yeah, a great documentary, I think. I love music, I love documentaries, I love to see how things go together. That's the engineer in me. This one kind of is the triple crown of stuff that makes me like it. It's called The Greatest Night in Pop. Check it out on Netflix.
That's awesome, babe. Yeah, it's really cute to see you like walking around the house, you know, like in your underwear,
We
like
are
humming "We Are the World."
Children.
I do love that song, but I've heard it so many times.
Right.
So many times in my life that I just like can't listen to it anymore intentionally, you know. So I don't know that I'll see that documentary, but I'm sure it's super interesting to kind of hear how it all came together. It's cool that it exists.
I think what I'm saying is let this documentary break you of that feeling, because it did for me. I'm like, am I going to turn this on really and hear this song over and over and over again? And I was hesitant. But when I did, I was like, I kind of fell in love with that whole feeling again. So I will say, don't let your tiredness of the song keep you from watching this good documentary.
Very fair. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you for your butt plug, Jim. Now we'll move to Will to insert his butt plug into the discussion. Will, what is your, I think this is the 27th time we've said butt plug for this week.
Yeah. So for my butt plug, I don't know. It doesn't have a lot of flair, but it really hit the spot for me. This is a movie that's on Netflix. It's one of the movies that has one Oscar nomination for lead actor for Coleman Domingo, and it's a movie called Rustin. And this is a I think this is a movie worth watching for a couple of different reasons. The movie is a biopic, again, starring Coleman Domingo as activist Bayard Rustin, who was a huge part of basically the civil rights movement, specifically the 1963 March on Washington, as one of the key organizers of that. He was both Black, which of course is part of the through line of his place in history, but he was also gay and faced a lot of pressure, both from within and from without. Not within, like from himself, but kind of within his circles, and from sort of outside
community.
forces that were trying to sort of discredit what he was doing because of his homosexuality. He's one of those figures that I think is a little forgotten. I don't want to say forgotten in history, but he doesn't get the credit that he's due. And Coleman Domingo is just so fucking good in this. Like there are other people that you're gonna recognize in this. Jeffrey Wright, Audra McDonald, Chris Rock are all in this. They all do good work, but man, Coleman Domingo just puts on a clinic. This was also, if you all liked Milk from 2008. One of the writers of that movie, Dustin Lance Black, who I believe received an Oscar for that script, also was one of the two writers on this. So it's on Netflix. This is not when I said before the Flair joke, I was both making the joke, but also like, that's an honest review. This is not a bells and whistles movie. It's not one of those movies where you're going to point out like, oh, I have this scene right here, and then this happened. But it goes down smooth, and it's one of those movies where, sort of like with my recommendation for Naiad last episode, this one is very much performance driven, and that's the big takeaway from it. Coleman Domingo, for all the flowers, he's just so damn good.
Great.
So it's called Rustin. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, I did start to watch that, and I didn't stop because I didn't like it at all. I got pulled away and I never got back to it. So I'm going to probably restart it at some point.
All right. Awesome. Well, Will, thank you so much for sharing your butt plug with us. I think it, really, really tickles the spot that we're going for with this segment of the show. But now I'm kind of feeling some pressure against my spot to really get a butt plug deeply into this conversation too. So it just keeps getting worse. Sorry. Anyway, I'm going to pivot a little bit and maybe take a different angle with my butt plug and talk about something TV related rather than a movie. Ever since 1999, I have been a huge fan of the reality show Survivor. 46 seasons now, 48. I don't even know. I can't keep track anymore. Yeah. Survivor. You got to say it like Jeff Probst. Survivor in the United States has kind of become stale and super gimmicky. Will just reminded me it's season 46 that's about to start here in like a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Really cool that the show is as long-lived as it is, but the U.S. version just unfortunately really hasn't held my interest in the last 5 or 6 years. But where I'm going with this is Australia has been doing a version of Survivor the past like 7 years. And Jim and I discovered it was a thing a couple years ago. Since then, we binged it all. And now as the new seasons come out, we are just ravenous for them. Survivor AU, as it's called online, Aussie Survivor, whatever you want to call it, is like Survivor back in its heyday, ratcheted up to 1,000 in like all the best non-gimmicky ways. Challenges are fucking brutal and physical, and the puzzles are insane and crazy and not reused, over and over and over and over again. Love Australian Survivor so much, and it just came back last week. It's on 3 nights a week. Each episode is an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, so it's like an hour and a half with commercials. And the unfortunate thing is, last year, all of Aussie Survivor went up on Paramount Plus. And people started watching it and they were like, oh my God, this is like the much better Survivor. There were all these tweets about it. And I think Jeff Probst got a little pissed off. And magically, all of Aussie Survivor was pulled off of Paramount Plus, and now only US Survivor lives there. But if you want to check this show out, because if you're a Survivor fan who's fallen out of it because it got so gimmicky and stale, this is your opportunity to jump on board. There's a couple ways that you can access the show. One, you can legally purchase a VPN and access the show through Australia's 10Play Network website. 10Play even encourages people outside of Australia to do that. It's free to watch the show in Australia, but just because of legal licensing, whatever, like, you know, they can only offer it if you live there. But a VPN will get you around that, and that's fine. The other way to do that is there are some YouTube channels out there that have apparently gotten permission to load some of these episodes. They're like officially like sanctioned or whatever. I don't know how the rights things work and how that's done, but you can find the episodes on YouTube as well. There are less savory ways that involve sailing the high seas. If that's something that you do, that's not something we would ever advocate. But there are ways out there to watch and access the show. So if you're a big Survivor fan and you're looking for a new Survivor experience, Survivor Australia is a pretty damn good one, I think.
Yeah, I love the Australian version of Survivor. We even watched some of the South African version of Survivor, which we thought was pretty good as well. Although I don't think it's quite as good as the Aussie Survivor. It's somewhere in between Aussie Survivor and American Survivor in terms of like what it, you know, it's appeal to me anyway, and to you probably too. It's tough for me to put my finger though on what makes Aussie Survivor so good, and I know there are other countries, like I think there's a UK version.
There is.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm wondering in my head, since I don't think I've seen any of it, if it comes close to Aussie Survivor or closer to American Survivor. I don't know. So maybe Survivor experts can tell me. I mean, it's all over Reddit, but yeah, I'm loving Aussie Survivor, and I'm glad it's restarted again. This new season looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. So far, it's been really good. But some of the, how many seasons, babe, do we have right now of Aussie Survivor?
This is it's weird because
7?
it's weird because there was a version of it that started in like 2002. It was on for 2 seasons. And then it was horrible and it got canceled and went away.
Right.
So the new version came back and it's starting as season 3. And this is now season 11. So 11
this is season 8
minus 3. So I guess this would be
like
8.
season 8.
The math is confusing.
7 or
you
8.
know, but just they only do 1 season a year in Australia. So whatever the fucking version in 2024 is, that's the most current one.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for this week. Thanks so much for giving us an opportunity to share our butt plugs with you. Hope you enjoy using them just as much as we have. And looking forward to coming at you next week with a review of Lisa Frankenstein. So if you're looking for a movie to see this weekend relative to when we're recording, which is February 7th, 2024, in case you're curious, go see Lisa Frankenstein this weekend and then come on back next week and join us for our review of that film. And then just a reminder, we're going to be in Austin in the second and third weeks of March. If you want to talk movies with us, maybe we could do like an MBP Iron Bear meetup or something if people want to come chat movies and hang. If we can find a hole in the schedule somewhere to do that, that could be fun. Or just catch us walking around downtown. We would love to interact with you folks for sure. And if you're going to South by, let us know.
Have y'all been to the new Iron Bear?
We have not yet.
Oh, so there's a good reason for us to maybe check that out.
Yeah, I know. Last year it was up and running, I think, but we never got a chance to go over there. It was just, so busy with movies and so, but would love to see Chops and other friends. And so maybe we can carve out some time. But listen, if anybody wants to talk movies between now and our next recording, or between now and when they run into us, hopefully at South by, let's let folks know how they can connect. Jim Pugliafico, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Letterboxd. I have an account there that is under the name at JJP Out West, where I rate every movie that I've watched, at least last year and through this year so far. I think I've got like 18 movies so far in this year, although 7 of them I think are shorts. But yeah, no, it's 20 actually. It's 20.
Still
So,
counts.
Yeah, so catch me on Letterboxd, and you can catch me on Facebook. I'm still on the Book of Faces under my name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Thank you so much for that, babe. And Will, how about you? Where can people find and interact with your wonderful self?
Yeah, so find me on my socials, TikTok, on Letterboxd, yada yada yada, review, blah blah blah. We should be sponsors of Letterboxd at this point. But TikTok, it's like I said, TikTok, Letterboxd, maybe on X. I don't know. Don't really like it all that much. Just look for at the Movie Bear. You can also find me on Facebook. Just search for William Lindis. Send me a message so I know that you're a real human being, and we'll say hi.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Will. You can find me on Facebook. Just look for Brad Harris. I'm the one who probably has Chub /Chaser /Bear, Otter, Wolf, Dolphin, whatever friends in common with you. Please send a message first, though, as well, so I know that you're not a hairy chest presenting bot just trying to trick me into thirst accepting your friend request. I'm also on Letterboxd, and continuing what we started last year, logging and rating every movie. Sometimes I write reviews. Most of the time, it's just a star rating. But it's a really great way for me to keep track of what I've seen and connect with other folks, and kind of swap opinions and talk. So you can find me on Letterboxd at iBradPro. It's like iPad Pro, but iBrad Pro. When you have to explain it, it isn't as clever and fun, but whatever.
As you thought it was.
I know. But, that's my handle, and I'm not going to change it at this point. But anyway, would love to chat if you feel like reaching out. Please feel free to do so. And I think that's it for us. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Will, if you are still listening at this point, other Will, not the Will that's on the show right now, D-Geek Will, make sure to check out his channel. By the way, he's super rad. But Will, great to have you with us. I know we had some other folks watching too, and not active in the live chat, but I got a couple text messages from some folks who are like, I don't want my name read out loud, but that movie really sucked. That's all I have to say. And I was like, well, we kicked it enough, but anyway, I want to acknowledge that those thoughts were shared. Anyway, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.